Good evening and welcome to Union Market's first live virtual panel discussion. I miss being with all of you. I wish I was with you all in person, but I think this is the best way that we can welcome you to our community. I'm Jody McLean. I'm CEO of Edens and proud developer of Union Market and proud member of the community. And so we're thrilled to have you here. We are, as I said, real estate developers, but we really believe that our business is much bigger than real estate. We're in the business of humanity and think that Union Market represents such a special place for our community, and I'm thrilled to bring you this panel discussion. And mostly, I'm thrilled to bring back Brian Summers, our good friend, to Union Market again, and to bring not only his art back, but the art of 4 other really prominent DMV photographers to Union Market. We put our heads together when we went into COVID. We couldn't think of the thought of not being with our community and being with you in person routinely. And we immediately turned to Brian and said, what can we do to activate and to bring people back in a way that only art can do, that art can inspire a social movement, it can inspire memories, mostly it can inspire emotional attachment. And that's what our community needs right for. It's really beautiful during a time when we need to find love and respect for. So with that, Brian, I would thank you first and foremost for trusting us in 2016, I guess it was, with your We Love You project, and giving us the faith to be the place to put that up and to share that with the community. And now I sincerely thank you for the introduction to Ashley Bing and James Anthony, who aren't with us tonight, but Jeremy Ives and Dio Kosoko. I hope I said that right, Dio. Thank you for bringing us these wonderful artists, for sharing their work with us tonight. Celebrating Melanin and Black heritage is so much a part of how we want to have those conversations, work at Union Market in both very casual ways in our everyday life and in really important ways like Claudia Watts is going to bring us tonight. So when we had to think about who could really help us orchestrate the conversation, who could introduce these artists, I asked several good friends of mine in the art world. Everybody came back to Claudia. So Claudia, I can't thank you enough for being here with us. Claudia is the managing editor, for those of you who don't know, of the Washington Informer Bridge, but she's also in 2016 assumed the role of the strategic planning and partnership at the Smithsonian's Anacostia Community Museum. She's been really active in the arts world. I think she has this wonderful spiritual presence about her to help all of us understand through conversation, through art, what true success looks like as a singular community, how we respect, how we understand, and how we truly love one another. So from there, with gratitude for all of you joining us tonight, for what you bring to our community, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Claudia, and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jody. That was a wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Claudia M. Watts, Managing Editor of The Bridge, as Jody said, and I'm streaming live today from DC. And so I'm just going to open things up with a few words from one of my favorite poets, Langston Hughes, that I think really kind of encompasses this installation. And right after that, you're going to see a short video, and then we're going to get started. So this poem is called My People. The night is beautiful, so the faces of my people. The stars are beautiful, so the eyes of my people. Beautiful also is the sun. Beautiful also are the souls of my people. And now video. All right, so that was awesome. Tonight, I am joined by some incredibly talented photographers. We're going to start by saying hello to Brian Summers of the We Love You Project and the mastermind behind this amazing installation. We're also joined by Dio Kosoko and Jeremy Ives. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
Really good.
I'm great.
Cheers.
I'm great. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so there are so many different avenues one can take with photography. You know, the spectrum ranges from, commercial, things can be surface, but they can also be emotionally evocative and even abstract. So could each of you kind of speak to why you chose the lane less traveled in seeking to celebrate melanin every day through your subject matter and how that has impacted your career?
Well, I can take a step back after I say this one, but basically I guess the nutshell is I've been shooting since high school, so I've found myself in the space where I'm capturing shots of my people and people around me and my own community and people who look like me and share the same interests. And then after a while I've realized, okay, I wanted to carve out a portfolio that would get me like the jobs on like Vogue and whatnot, and I wanted to diversify my own portfolio, but then I started to realize it needed to be the other way around. So once I realized that, there was a need to tell the stories from my community, from my perspective, just like so many other photographers like Dio and Jeremy and James and Ashley are doing, that when I realized that, when I realized like the space that I was in, I really just embraced it and felt like this is what it needs to be championed. And if I'm a part of that, then so be it.
That's a beautiful response, Brian. I guess I can relate to Brian's response because I too started shooting in high school, or excuse me, photographing images in high school, and
Yes.
a lot of what we do isn't a reflection of some things on purpose. Sometimes it's just a result of the environment that you're brought up in. I mean, we were lucky enough to go to a very diverse high school in Prince George's County, Maryland, and starting to take photos at that time, I just saw myself as a historian because that's what introduced me to photography. The ability to just capture memories and moments, and in the beginning it was, yes, let's capture this part of history, but essentially you start realizing these are images and stories that aren't really seen. So as you come to that realization, you try to emphasize the ability to tell the stories of people who aren't as seen, and try to bring those stories to light.
To build on that,
you, Jeremy?
Yeah, what about me? Can you hear me all right? I guess that's the first question I would ask.
Yep. You sound great.
Yeah, I think that it just comes down to being able to tell the story of your community and being able to have a lens on your community that's from your culture, right? So, whether it's my kids or it's my friends or it's a client, just really being able to show people in their best light and take a look at what's going on in my community and the same way as the two other guys said, just how we craft that story, how we tell that story.
So In doing that, have you experienced or has it become more difficult for you or been more difficult for you to get, those, like you talked about Vogue, Brian, those types of jobs, or did they become less important?
I I think the jobs. Excuse me. Say up the first part again.
Just that, so, you all talked about how important it was to show your communities and those untold stories. And so has that impacted you, professionally?
Yeah, for me, it definitely impacted. I mean, so you mentioned the We Love You project earlier. It was the first time I had a chance to actually work with Union Market and showcase images. That project right there was one born out of frustration, and trying to figure out what I, as a visual artist, can do, to add to the movement and to add to the strategy that we've been doing for years. But to answer your question, doing that, allowed, I guess, other people to see the work. And since that project was individually, it was a massive project taken on to photograph 1,000 people, as 1,000 individuals that possibly have ties to something else. So that right there, I always say photography is the work in networking. Like, you kind of do it, when you're out and about, especially if you're kept like photographing people. So yeah, being able to photograph people, for that social justice event got me other opportunities that Dio and I actually had a chance to photograph at the White House, back when we had Barack
Wow.
Obama in office, for the last My Brother's Keeper event. So that came directly from exposure, from the Levy Project. So yeah, it definitely pushed us in that direction.
To piggyback off of that, I think one thing in the photography world that's really, interesting and innovative is that one thing, excuse me, one thing leads to another. I think as you complete, as you do, that then guides you towards the next thing. And I can piggyback off of Brian's "We Love You" project because I was there with him as he created that. And one day, Brian said to me, "Dio, I'm not my pit place isn't going out and marching. My place is going out and creating to emphasize the story of things going on." He called it a digital march or digital protest at the time.
Yeah.
And all right, I don't want to quote you, Brian. I'm out here quoting you, but which is kind of cool. But just creating as we create, with purpose, which is always the intent. When you finally found your voice or your eye, creating with intent, things tend to fall into place with what you create, and it's just the continuation of it.
Yeah, so I guess to build on that, I guess what I would look at is just creating from the heart, right? And I'll take this moment to big up Dio. Like, the Melanin project that Dio put together last year, I think is like one of the coolest things that I've seen, right? And then to see that go from fruition in the studio, conceptualizing what he was going to do with it, to watching him shoot it, watching him put that through a gallery, made me take a step back and say, hey, look, I can shoot cool pictures, but can I actually tell a story with my images, right? So I think that half of it is the inspiration that you find in yourself, but then the other half of it is the inspiration that you find in your community and how you can turn around and market those projects.
I
I
love
can,
that. I love that.
I can actually even speak to experiences that I've had with James off of events that Dio and I actually. So backstory: Dio, myself, and James went to high school together. So that's our tie
Oh,
to the
wow.
venue.
Okay.
Yeah. Who knew? Like, I honestly didn't know, like, until Facebook, that we all had an interest in photography. Coming back to high school, but anyway, James had an opportunity to take his James shoots and draws style, that he actually used in Dio's image, of the Kosoko boys on the wall. He
Hmm.
utilized that James shoots and draw style, and has gotten a lot of notoriety, and was able to utilize that at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. He brought us on to be, second shooters for the event, but they had him create like a step and repeat of, notable Black people in history. I can't think of everybody's name because there was a lot that he actually had to draw. The likes of Mary McLeod Bethune and Martin Luther King and whatnot. And then I know Ashley. Like I said before, offline, she's somebody that I have admired her work because of the connection she has to families. She once told me that she's a milestone photographer. So whether that's birthdays, graduations, weddings, different things in life, even like the actual date of your birth, so maternity, so the way that she captures that and took care to that, it caught my eye. But I know, all of this social justice and all of this work, like I said, when you have an intent, it comes back and it allows you to do bigger and more impactful things. So, and I know she's done and been recognized for that part of her work as well.
I mean, I think that that's great, sticking to your purpose and kind of walking in that, and you'll find, the success and the opportunities that you need. And so in terms of technique, you kind of led into this a little bit, but when we walked around during the walkthrough, we talked about everyone's kind of different styles, and you all take a very different approach. Dio, you're very vibrant colors. You can feel the Afrocentricity there. Jeremy, your use of light and the black and the white and the tone is just masterful. Brian, your work speaks to identity, and I feel like you're always telling a story. We talked about Ashley and her focus on family and portraiture and how beautiful that is. And James is like a bold wild card, He's got an air of movement and kind of whimsy in his work. And so each of these really demonstrates the multifacetedness of Black culture. And so how have you developed these styles over time, and like what drew you to them initially?
Di, you want to take it first?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, you know what? When you're talking about style, right? It's the first word that comes to my mind is process. I'm sure each of us in this group, as well as individuals like James and Ashley, each shot differently over time, from time to time, and not just from the eye perspective, but from the editing perspective of what we want to give out and portray. It's definitely a journey, and I think it's a continuous journey, because in the art world, one of the greatest things that you can have is the ability for someone to see your work and know, okay, yeah, Dio did that. That's the art hype. Like somebody will hit me and say, yo, I thought I saw that. I knew that was yours. Oh, Jeremy, I knew that was Jeremy's thing. Oh, Brian, that looked like yours. That's something that's very special, because, one of the greatest things that I had to overcome growing up was removing watermarks from my photos. Early on in the game, I used to put watermarks right on my photos, boom, 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 because I had this mentality that, this image, once I put it out there, someone's going to take it, someone's going to copy my style, someone's going to do all these different things. In the reality of it, none of that matters, because, and, I think that's why we're able to have a sense of a community when it comes to creative, being these creatives that we are, because we all each understand that each of our works are our own. There's no competition. There's no, oh, he's better. There's no better than. It's all subjective. And in the end, you're creating what works for you, and your art is yours. So, over years, I've come to finally find my place. I can trace back my, as you called it, Claudia, which I appreciate, because Brian and I talk about this all the time. What do people see when they see our work? So I love when people tell me what they see in my work. And you mentioned the vibrant energy, these different things. I think it's also a reflection of who I am and my personality. I'm a first generation Nigerian, you know what I mean? I come from a culture of bright colors, Ankara, different material. You go to Nigeria, it is melanin all over the place. You know what I mean? It's scenes, and those type of things have obviously rubbed off on me. And, I come to a place where I see life and movement through pictures, and, I just move with energy. So it's great that, you identified that, and I agree with it as well. So I appreciate you, Claudia. Thanks, Brian, for the oop.
Oh.
And
good luck, guys.
Right, tough one to follow.
I guess what I would say to build on that is, like, Dio talks about community, right? And I think, Dio and I sat down with somebody that's in our community, an older entrepreneur, older business owner, and one of the things that he said to us was, it's his responsibility to make sure that younger people in his community beat expectations and excel, not survive, but like just truly excel. And I think when Dio talks about community, for me, what I take in is like there aren't secrets, right? And whether it's Brian or it's Dio or it's James, like we can pick up the phone, we can call each other, we can say, hey, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And there's no secrets in our community, right? So it's like how do we help each other excel? How do we excel? How do we help each other, get better and just really hone in the craft of photography or telling that story? And whether that's from tricks or working on projects together, like I think that that's something that's really unique to the way that I've seen everybody work together is just how much of a team mentality there is and how ego-less that whole process it is moving forward, I guess.
Well, I mean, Brian just raved about how amazing you were technically on the walkthrough, so I think that's pretty awesome that you got that from like a sense of community and people sharing things with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So for me, just like Dio said, over time, you start to develop your personal interests and whatnot. I've been shooting for 20 years now, so, it's counting like probably 10 of those years are just trash years because I'm in like high school and college.
They weren't trash. They're not trash.
Right.
They're
No, they're not trash.
They're part of the journey, Brian. Part of the journey.
I always say that you should be better tomorrow than you are today. So, essentially, something you shot last year, depending on how, I guess, fire it was then, it shouldn't be holding up to what you have right now. But all that to say, I've kind of gone through phases of just, wanting to be just an artist, and, just coming up with stuff that might just be, I think it's a good shot, but I can't really explain it. It has no attachment to it. And then just going through that, just, studying design and being involved in the school papers and on different levels and even working in that field, I think I've naturally developed like a journalistic role, and through that has come the integrity and whatnot. And I know you mentioned identity earlier. I never actually thought about that, but that's I think I'm around with that because we just focus on portraits. When I first moved to New York, I was doing a lot of emptiness. There was a lot of subways, a lot of dark spaces, and then I came out of the subway and I was needed to transition back to faces and people. So that's when it got like closer and personal. And I mainly shoot with a 50 millimeter lens, so I have to be in your face and get like a portrait that I like. So
wear your mask. Just wear your mask.
Yeah, definitely wear my mask or strap on a telephoto lens and stand back. But definitely, I guess that sense of identity came from just doing all these portraits. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at right now, just focusing on these portraits. And it's not just somebody's face, it could be somebody's actions, somebody like a gesture, like dancing or leaping and whatnot.
Yes, like there's actually there is an image of a dancer in this installation, and so that's kind of my next question. It's like, what is the process that went into pulling this together? I'm sure you all have very extensive portfolios, but like what, if any, specific statements were you trying to convey with the images you selected?
Well, I'll say in the beginning is because it all came pretty fast. I know there was supposed to be other events going on at Union Market right now, and because of COVID, we had to shift and figure something else out. And nobody expected anything in 2020 to happen. So all of that contributes to it. Let me get my light back together. all of that contributed to it. But I'll let that rock out for a second. But hold on.
You want me to talk? You get right. You get right, Brian.
Yeah, I'm right right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. You got to roll with the punches. But so long story short, bringing it all together for me, it was just looking back at the images that I've had, so far. I'm just collecting the images that we have because we didn't do a specific shoot just for this particular shoot. Just for this project. We all went back in our catalogs, and like we said, we've been photographing our community for years. So that made it kind of easier for us to just go in and find, okay, I need some of this, I need some of that, and it's not like me being forced to go find something.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you said, Brian, because I think going back into a catalog allows you to say, wow, this is an image I wish it saw the light that I wanted it to see. Because, as a shooter, you put your art out there and you don't know how it's going to be received and you don't know who's going to see it. So, whenever there's a platform or an opportunity to present work that's important to you, or that, you want people to digest, opportunities like this are just amazing. So each piece I selected, I just really thought about what I wanted to convey as far as who I am and what my art is. So
Yeah, and I think for me, I went back and I wanted to look and just really represent this area, this community. So whether it's a girl that was raised in this community that's in the arts and is a model and a published model and does amazing things, if it's a guy who transitioned into photography and made a change in, the direction he was going with his life, if it's my kids who are growing up in the DMV and are born and raised in this area, or if it's our friend Yogi, who's like an amazing photographer from the DC area, and just continues to do things to amaze me every day. I just wanted to celebrate people that are in our community, from our community, in an interesting way. So I just think it's really powerful that we get to have these images up in our nation's capital, that people walk by it. And I think one of the cool things when we did the walkthrough the other day, to watch a family that doesn't necessarily look like my family stop and have a little kid point out pictures of my kids to his family, I think just kind of like goes full circle in the intent of what this project is and kind of the beauty that art does in pulling different people together.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that photo of Yogi. It's stunning. Okay, so just to switch, not really switch gears, but kind of round ourselves into a more, I guess, thoughtful, philosophical arc to our conversation. As a Black person, how do you reconcile the current state of society? In the past few months, we've experienced this pandemic. We've witnessed the death of George Floyd and an outpouring, both at home and abroad, of support as people of all colors and creeds took to the streets to rally against police brutality, discrimination, and just social injustice as a whole. It would kind of seem like we've started to enter a collective awakening. But we also know that history shows us many times that things are easily forgotten. So do you think that this moment is different than previous periods in time where we've seen kind of an uprising?
Can I speak on this quickly,
Yeah.
bro?
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing that was mentioned in the beginning of this call was, much love and shout out to Brian Summers for the We Love You project in 2016. And as Brian mentioned, that was a retaliation to protests that were occurring at that time, and not feeling like somebody who would go out and protest, but somebody that wanted to impact in a different route. Now, mind you, that's 2016. So, right. This is 4 years later. More names are being added to the list, and more things are occurring. Do I think this time is different than times in previous? I would say yes, due to the fact that, if you look at the civil rights movements and where individuals would protest and demonstrate in order to gather media attention, mind you, we didn't have the connectivity that we had in this day and age. If something was happening in Selma, Alabama, somebody in California probably wouldn't really get that information for a while unless it was nationally broadcasted. So a lot of individuals did things to heighten media coverage and things of that nature. If you look at 2020, everything is instantaneous, i.e. Insta, right? So we have platforms where no matter what you're doing, which I love now, which is a common thread, someone might mention XYZ, and at the end of whatever they're talking about, they'll say, we still have not tried the killers of Breonna Taylor. So we have
yes, absolutely.
we have the ability now to consistently remind. And I think because of COVID, this is really a really strange time in history. We were allowed to not have distractions. for 3 months,
Yeah,
4 months.
exactly.
And it was a moment that has charged up individuals, artists, resistance, charged up people to consistently create, consistently do, and not be distracted, even up to this point. So, because of those factors, I feel like now is different. I pray that now is different. And, I think one step that we all can do, which is what we're trying to do, is to make sure that the conversation continues and is not lost with sports or some fun stuff happening. I mean, we have elections coming up in November. Everything matters. And, with the opportunity for us to talk about things like this consistently, it's my reasoning that this time is different.
Yeah, Claudia, we discussed this the other day as well. And Dio kind of mentioned it. Just technology is always evolving. So we might have known about one Emmett Till, but that's because the media was limited. Now everybody has a cell phone in their pocket, and that's one of the things that I had mentioned when the We Love You Project was active, was that we need to take back our image. And now, that was awareness. I guess it was multifaceted, where I'm, showing that these are, the faces of of Black, lives that matter. This is another stage of it. It's not so concentrated where it's just all Black men. It's opened up to other photographers to contribute and whatnot. But it's just a way for us to encourage other people to keep to continue to capture what's going on. I know in Emmett Till's situation, like, his mom invited photographers to come in to capture this because she wanted this
Open.
this heinous situation to be uh, broadcast. And then there were other times where, like, I forget the exact name of it, but when one of the protests that Martin Luther King organized in Alabama, we now know a famous image of a young man being bit by a German Shepherd. But that was strategized. Like, we knew that was going to happen, and not necessarily that dog biting that young man, but we knew racism was going to show its ugly head that day. We need to have somebody here to capture this, because nobody's going to believe it unless we show what's going on. And then if enough of us show what's going on, they'll be like, okay, well, it's not just one incident. It's happening all over. And right now it's real time. So we know what's going on in Ferguson and Fruitvale and anywhere, like, right now at the exact moment it happens. So yes, things will have ups and downs, but I think this time, worse than the last time, feels like one of those last straw moments. But and the first time I felt like I needed to share images versus march. This year alone, I've been to like 3 different Black Lives Matter plazas, helped paint one, and I was out walking and riding my bike in 2 marches. So I think a lot has changed in those 4 years. Um, and I'm also strategizing too. I mean, we're all fathers here, so we're strategizing, like, all right, how can I be the most active, but also take advantage of what I'm doing and be the safest, and also show our children that like, our fathers can show us, and our parents can show us the Million Man March. We've had several different protests and marches since then that we could say, we were there. Here's the photo. It was in Time magazine, and so on and so on.
Yeah, I think for me that's where it comes to. So I can sit around and hope that it gets better, and we can say that we wish it gets better, but I pray that it does, and it has to, right? I have 2 kids now, has 2 kids, Brian has kids, and I think at the end of the day, to Brian's point, like, I just want to be able to sit down with my son when he turns 2021 and have a real conversation of what we did to impact change, and how we help document change, and how we help tell that story. Um, so yeah.
So, I mean, as it relates to the arts, I think something that we're seeing now more this time around than we saw before is you have a lot of these larger institutions pivoting towards highlighting Black artists and stories and things like that. I think all of the major auction houses have an exhibition with, like, top Black artists right now. How has that impacted you all? Have you been receiving more opportunities or, like, a larger platform more recently?
Brian, you want to
Um,
go first?
yeah, well, I mean, this definitely working with Union Market is probably the largest thing that's happened recently. I might be skipping over, but I know we had a chance to do the State of the Young People event
Yeah.
on Facebook, and that was I didn't realize how huge it was. And even now, I'm thinking back to it, like those kids, those kids there were like future presidents and politicians. So right
Yep.
now we're learning about COVID and how kids are going back to school. So I'm thinking about those kids are probably like suggesting like ways to work around it. Like they're fully capable of doing all of that. So not I'm trying to take all of these events into consideration, but just since then, just since the We Love You situation or project rather, it's been the White House, Facebook, other My Brother's Keeper events, and then other things that might be, it might seem smaller, but then they might have a more impactful feeling, like personally, like you might have a chance to just, do something for your for your smaller community, but that you're gonna give them a higher quality image than you would have 10 years ago. So just knowing that you can give back now and people like are seeking you, or like again, I'm speaking on stuff that you've done, but
My bro, you're my bro. It's all good.
I mean, we worked on stuff together. That's why I'm mentioning them. But like the family room, I mean, all of these things are happening because of what people are seeing us do within our smaller communities and the larger ones outside of that as well.
Um, I would say that, it's a great question, Claudia. I think that opportunities have been coming left and right. And, it's always that thought of, okay, and, it's unfortunate. I have to think like this as an artist, but you start to question, okay, am I getting this because I'm good? Or am I now getting this because I'm black? Or am I getting this because I'm black and good? Or am I getting this because
Right.
I'm black, and because I'm black, you now see me because of everything else, and you see I'm good. So there's a multitude of thoughts and ideas when these things are occurring. But I mean, in the end, what we've always wanted and what we still desire is to be seen. And if that comes from guilt, having a guilt or having a thought, having a thought of trend of, oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing? Everybody on standby. What are we doing for Black people right now? In a sense of crisis, alert, alarm. Then that's the beginning. My only fear and concern is it has to continue. It has to not be a
Mm-hmm.
secondary thought. It can't be reactionary. It has to be
Absolutely.
proactive. It has to be something that's always on the forefront. I want, individuals, all these groups and organizations. Yes, the opportunities are coming in. They're great. They're feeding family. It's, but how do we ensure that there's always somebody in the room that's thinking about us? That there's always somebody that's saying, hold up, y'all, whoa, this is not good. And I think that's the inclusion that's been necessary that truly shows that what America is, which is a melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is going to be a melting pot, we got to melt down the whole pot. We got to
Yeah.
throw the veggies in there. We got to throw the chicken. We got to throw the stew, and we got to
Mm-hmm.
mix it up. So if your space doesn't look like a melting pot, you got to change your ingredients. And you can caption me on that.
Absolutely.
You can quote me on that. That's how I feel. And I think, but yes, kudos to those that are doing the work, that are saying we're not aware right now. What can we do? And
Mm-hmm.
it's a learning process. We're all in here for it, and ego's out the door. Let's learn together.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think for me it breaks down a couple ways. So are there more opportunities? There's never enough opportunities. So if anybody has an opportunity, we will take all of them, right? So and I thank Union Market for this opportunity, because to Dio's point, we want to be seen. And I think one of the coolest things is just seeing people tag our work and show that they appreciate it, right? I think just being seen is powerful enough. I think one of the big questions we continually ask ourselves, right? And Dio, myself, Brian, my other business partner, Thad, like, I think the question is, what opportunities can we make in our community, and what can we give back to our community? So not only, yes, of course, there's things that come to us because there's heightened attention on who we are, but I think it's just important to turn around and say, how can we turn around and make more opportunities for people that are younger than us that want to do what we're doing?
I love that. I love that. Okay, so What is the one thing that you want people who see this installation to take from it? And how do you hope that they apply it in their everyday lives?
Repeat the question, Claudia. And I think we lost Brian, but he'll probably get back
Oh
in
no,
here.
I think
He'll get
so. I
back
want to
in.
know if there's one thing that you want people to take from this installation. What is that one thing, and how would you hope that they'll apply it in their everyday lives?
Mm. I guess for me, the one thing I want people to take away is the humanization of Blackness. Um, I think when it comes to being a majority group or being a minority group, there's a lot of unknown, and I think the unknown uh, is what separates us. The ignorance, the unknown, the not understanding, and all these things are divisive, right? Because it's like, okay, I don't know what that
Absolutely.
is, but we do this over here and we're like this. And I think this format, these images, these stories allow you to say, whoa, like Jeremy mentioned earlier, a family walking by and saying, oh man, it's a black dad with two kids all over him, trying to take a picture. I've been through that too. Wow, me and him, we have a lot in common. And
Mm,
Jeremy and Brian know this about me. I believe that we're all connected in some way or another, and it's through commonalities. It's through the little things that connect us. Oh, you like this sports team? Oh man, me too. Shoot, we're in the same stand talking about
absolutely.
the game. We like the same team. In that moment, because of the thing. And I think the more that that's explained and understood, the easier connection and understanding can happen. And our images being out in the world to see where you can't close your eyes to it because you got to walk by is something
Hmm.
special. And if you walk by and look and you want to investigate further, that's something special. I really want to give kudos to the attendees in here as well, because to me that means
Yeah,
they saw an interest in what's happening, and to them they want to know more, they want to understand more, they want to hear from us, and we're always going to be ready to talk about it. So kudos.
yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, you're totally speaking to my soul right now. We did a walkthrough and I was talking to Jody and I was saying, what I love about this is that it reflects everyday life for everyone, not just we are celebrating melanin, but anyone can relate to these images, and the sooner that we accept that we are one, in the grander scheme, it's just it moves everything forward. But so it's not for me to respond. So you two, Jeremy and Brian, what is the one thing that you want people to take from this exhibition, and how do you hope they apply it in their everyday life? Oh, I don't
Brian,
think we can hear Brian.
Yeah, here we go.
there you go.
Yeah, so
Got
the
you.
one of the things that I would definitely love people to take away from it is like we mentioned before, this is kind of like a second iteration or second go round for me, to be able to put up images at Union Market. The first time, it was 40 images on the Sixth Street side. So people, drove by, and I wanted them to know that these are the people that are in their community. Um, when I started it, I was living in Brooklyn, with the W Project. I was living in Brooklyn, and people were crossing. Excuse me, I lived in Bed-Stuy, and if you lived deep into Bed-Stuy, like going away from Clinton Hill, and you crossed over Nostrand Avenue, that's when you started to see police patrol the block like two by two. Like every other block, they would patrol like two by two, and you could tell that they weren't from the neighborhood. So having a mural of people that look like the neighborhood or people from the neighborhood, should humanize them, one, and then also make those people that are there working, feel, it's crazy. We got to make them feel safe, but they're feeling safer, and they feel connected to the community because they can say, I've seen that face before. Um, and now, it's 25 images spread out throughout the whole Union Market district. And they're not, just all, just guys or just all, one age or wearing one color shirt. Like you said, there's different people there with different styles, different, ethnicities, different, different preferences, whatnot, and different things. So you can see a diversity amongst us. So it's not like a light skin, dark skin thing or freckle thing or big or small. There's some of everyone, and it's only 25 images, so that's a small sampling of even that. So that's the one thing I learned from doing that large shoot, of 1,000 people. Each person is an individual. You might have common interests, but you're different, and we might be able to capture a little bit about it. So I would like people to walk away from this installation feeling like, you got a glimpse of what, you know, melanin might look like. And to be honest, it's funny because like it's only, yeah, I'm gonna just say it's only a select few because this is just Americans. I was gonna say it's first generation, or
Mhm.
in different, I guess, generations of the diaspora up there, but it's different places in the world with melanin. So this is just a sample size.
Yeah, for me, I guess I would want people to take away a couple things. Like, first, I want them to be able to take away that the stories of the images, right? So to be able to go to the images, and I think it's awesome that the QR codes are on there that you can scan and go to get a link to the bio and go to get more information about the story of like what that image represents. But like as a collective, like I would hope that people can look at it, see love, and walk away from it with just an understanding of how much we love our community and how much that love is spread out to humanity, right? And I think the intent of this project is to celebrate who we are, but inclusively celebrate who we all are. So, and my phone number and email and contact, how to get a hold of me and book me and stuff like that. That'd be great if they walked away with that. But I think primarily, right? Yeah, I would hope that people
Yeah,
want
yeah. I think we're
to understand
all
how
available
much
for
we love our
booking.
community.
Book us now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well that you all heard that. Um, so my last question is, how has this experience impacted each of you? And what more do you think you can do beyond this to move the collective conversation into a space of healing and understanding?
I'll go first, Brian, because I want to shout you up. So, what was it, Brian? A month ago, Savvy's mural went up.
Yeah, it was actually on Juneteenth.
So I'll let Brian speak to it, but pictures of Brian's daughter seeing herself on a wall, I think for me made me say like I want to do that for my kids someday, right? Um, and I think the coolest thing that I've seen from this is to have other people see my family, to have other people see like what I am the most proud of in this world. But then conversely to that, to have my kids see it, to have them come down and see themselves blown up on a wall, and just be able to feel that immense feeling of proudness and importance to who they are. Um, I think it's the coolest thing I've seen from this. That's it. That's all. Brian, your turn.
What is the next step? You said, Claudia. So you said what is
So
the
I
next
said,
step?
how did this project impact you? And what is the next step? Like, what more are you going to do to move the conversation to a space of healing and understanding?
Um, okay, so honestly, I I'll say this, and I know I keep talking about the Bloody Project, but I learned a lot from it. The first go round, it was like out of frustration, and it was something that I felt like I needed to react to immediately. I shared it with like three friends, and they told me to do it quick. And everything was just happening so fast, and I just wanted to take control of it. So I called my cousin, and he was like, "Hey, I have access to these photographers in different states. We can scale this up right real fast and do it right now and have it done." But I was just too protective of the idea as an art installation, I guess you could think about it. And I was also trying to make sure it was done like quote unquote the right way, just the way that I saw it done. Um, but fast forward to this time around, it was cool to be able to share this opportunity. And you know, I've played producer roles before, but when it comes to whether it's friends or people that need the light or need a champion or need an ally, that are all in the community. Um, like I think that's what the next phase for me is. Like that's how I've been impacted. Or my state of thinking is okay. Yes, I'm a photographer, but I can also, you know, pull from the community of photographers that, Dio and I and Jeremy and James, and Ashley have all cultivated. Dio and I and James have a show together. So, we have photographers that we can pull from that show to, give light to. And these are all people that, like us, might not have had quote unquote mentors. We might have had classes in high school for photography or college a little bit, but none of us had like a Richard Avedon internship, so maybe we are the Richard Avedons to give these internships, or to give the walls and spaces to, because, it's not just my eyes out here in the world. So I'm thinking about how to curate and how to produce more of these events for other people. Obviously I want to be the artist too, but it's a really good feeling being able to call up photographers and say, hey, send me your work.
As far as for me, this is a stepping stone to even bigger and better things. Even though this is a big thing, like I said, our moments lead to other moments. It's a big moment because Brian mentioned earlier my relationship with Brian and James, and sometimes I really just have to take a step back and really think about the origins of this photography and our journey, because we all ran track together in high school. I was a senior, Brian was a freshman, James was a sophomore. Now, granted, we weren't the best buddies in the world, especially with Brian, who was a freshman at the time. But through our passion and on our collective understanding of the arts and where we came from, there was sort of a bond that was even established then. So when I have the ability to walk down the street and, shout out to Nipsey Hussle, it's the marathon. When I look at the results of the marathon, of the race that we're all running surrounding me, it's almost very overwhelming, because with each individual's image, I also remember when they took that image. I remember the trip they went on. I remember when Brian said, this is for colors. I remember when Jeremy brought this individual to the dojo, which is our studio in Capitol Heights. I remember when James said, I had a Father's Day project. Dio, are you interested? Like, I remember all these moments, and it really shows that we have a lot more to do. And I keep emphasizing the more because this is special. But like you said, we have to figure out what's next and how we're going to continue these conversations. For me, I look at the project like Melanin Project with, and I'm sure we're going to go through pictures of things, but I have to quickly speak to Moon Melanin, which was a project surrounding the moonlight illuminating our melanated skins. Now, melanated was in terms of Black, Hispanic, whoever you are, with a dose of melanin. And the emphasis behind that project was to emphasize the stories of the unseen. So unseen that it feels like we're in the dark. And being able to see, be it by sunlight or moonlight in this situation, is something that we all desire. And this is a chance to be seen. I'll continuously say it, but using our resources collectively and individually, and almost, I don't want to say demanding, but making it a point to emphasize in certain scenarios with whoever clients we're working with, be it a big brand, a national brand, or a small local brand. What are you guys doing for this? I'm going to create imagery that's going to relate to this. Are you still on board? And continuing that dialogue. And I think that's what we know how to do, is storytell. And we just have to encourage each other, as I encourage everyone else to, is to continuously make an attempt to fight for those who may not have a voice in the room.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so now we've come to a very fun portion of tonight's discussion, where we're going to open it up to some Q&A from the audience. And so I think that there's a Q&A little icon where people can ask questions. Yep, so I'm going to be looking at that, and I'm going to read them off, and then you all can go ahead and tackle them. So the first one says, can each artist identify what one thing that most captures their eye while creating your artistic work?
Wow. That's so deep.
You gonna say mine first before y'all steal it?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
I mean, these guys know I'm a sucker for natural light. I'll be walking, and not just, not just regular natural light, like natural modifiers. So if you're out in like the woods or even the street, I remember I was in DC and I was taking pictures. The sun was like on the right side of the street, but there was like a huge glass window on the left, and my subject was on like the opposite side basically. But basically the light just bounced, and you can do all this stuff in a studio, but I look for it in the wild basically, per se, for it to happen, because it's a lot easier to just have the set outside than to build the set in the studio. I'd rather just manipulate the light that's outside. But that's the first thing that comes to me is just the natural light and how whatever's around it might manipulate it.
Nice one, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's perfect. Let me go ahead before no, me and Jeremy won't have this anymore. But for me, as somebody who emphasizes portraiture, the thing that captures my eye is seeing beauty in things that people may not recognize. It's part of the reason why I also like candid work so much, being able to see somebody and be able to capture them in a way that they may not have seen themselves. That's what my eye is geared towards. If I'm able to, I just love seeing something about somebody that I think is important enough to be captured. And sometimes it throws people off. Oh my gosh, me? You want to take a picture of me? I'm not photogenic. I'm not this. I'm not that. Yo, let's stop talking about what you aren't and let's start talking about what you are, which is somebody that I saw and I got this emotion from and I've got these feelings from, and you can change the whole dynamic of that. So for me, it's a feeling. It's a feeling of, okay, I see you here, and this moment needs to be documented. This has to be documented.
Very nice, very nice. And so now we were also talking about opportunities. And so what I've been hearing is that people want to know, where can they buy your work?
My email is Brian, you can go ahead.
Slowly.
So I mean, I actually just transitioned and made a whole like one-stop shop for things. And I actually have T-shirts right now of every image that I have in the installation. That's on sumsbrand.com. So it's SUMSbrand.com. Since we dropping links, there's also a discount code on there right now. So if you go to the site,
Brian don't play. Brian does not play.
But no, I definitely want to make these available, limited run prints. And I would encourage Dio and the rest of photographers to do the same. But we definitely would like to share that information. So Dio and Jeremy, if you have a site already, then feel free, definitely.
My website is my website is thearthype.com, TheArthype. You can contact me there. I whatever you're trying to get, whatever you need, I'm here for it. A long time ago, Brian and I and James talked about on our podcast. We said, what's one of the greatest things that accomplishments that a photographer can have? And I think the general consensus was having your work in a museum. But this is pretty close. And I think when your work is seen in people's homes, and someone walks in and says, "Yo, this picture, who did that?" I think that's powerful as well. So yeah, definitely selling prints, whatever you need, Jeremy.
Yeah, that was season 2, episode 219, guys. I was really excited about that episode when it dropped on Thursday. Yeah, driveshot.com. So you can go to driveshot.com. There'll be a link for purchase, and it'll bring you to a self-fulfillment site. Pick the size you want. It'll drop ship right to your house.
Hey, Jeremy, please, you didn't get a chance to answer what is the one thing that captures your eye.
Oh, man. The one thing. So I guess 2 things would be like light, right? So like you started off talking about.
One thing.
I'm going to take 2 things now for me to answer the question. So now I have 2 things. So yeah, I would say light and just like kind of to Brian's point, how we can manipulate light. I think I look at that in a studio a little bit more than natural light. And then to Dio's point, like the story that we tell on people, right? So I think the most fun thing I have is when someone doesn't want to get their picture taken and then they turn around and make the picture that you take something that they put on their wall or something that they put as a profile. Because to be able to show, to be able to have people love how they look, I think is a really special gift that we have to give.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so just so everyone knows, Union Market is going to send an email with all of the links that they mentioned about purchasing and contact. So don't worry in case you missed it. And so we have another question, and it says, do each of you remember your first photo or the first photo that made you realize you had a passion for photography? And if so, do you mind describing that photo?
Wow.
Mm.
It definitely was a picture of Michael Jordan. I can tell you that. And I was probably like 12.
Oh, this is just a photo period or a photo
Or a photo that we took. I guess I don't.
Let me read it. So the first photo that made.
I think it's just the first photo in general.
What you saw?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first photo.
Okay, real quick. The first photo for me was a picture of myself and my siblings younger. My father, is a photographer, was a photographer, has a camera, and he was somebody that documented my brother, my sister, my mom, our lives growing up. And I'm very thankful for that, even though obviously, I'm not thankful for other things, but I'm thankful for that. He did something very right at that point. And, I think being able to see myself grow up and to see my siblings and to see moments in my life from an early point, that was something that has stayed with me to this day. As I mentioned when I first started talking, being a historian, being somebody that captures the now so that my son can look back and say, dang, Dad, like, whoa, you had a really great life. Like, you really did some things. Here's the proof. The proof is in the pudding. So, before photography, elders would just tell stories and those stories would be passed down. And we have the tools now to keep those stories going.
Right.
Is there one that I guess you took that kind of sparked your passion?
Yes. I'll go again real quick since I'm on. 2000, obviously we've taken pictures since high school, et cetera, et cetera. The first time I had a DSLR, I did a photo shoot with a Sudanese model, Unity. I always tell this story because she's now a sign model in New York. And at the time, we were both just two individuals that were trying to figure this thing out. I did a photo shoot with her, and I realized I love this. I realized that what I envisioned before I did the shoot came into fruition. Nothing more powerful than dating. I mean, we're all fathers, as you mentioned. That's some specialty of us. We've created life. Shout out to our wives. We've each created life together. But, being able to see something, conceptualize it, and create and see it, and no matter what's going on, looking at each other like, well, we did that. That's what did it for me. So shout out to Unity. She's doing her thing in New York, and I always shout her out because that was my first that was my first shoot. I really did. So
I think the first photo, I'm trying to think if it's like one particular photo that made me feel like I wanted to pursue photography. Like Dia, my father is a photographer as well. Um, so, again, I have those shared memories of having photos of my brother and I around the house or just in different places, or just seeing my dad and his brothers like posted on like a El Camino in like the 80s. It just looks classic, but I get the same feeling from that I might get from like a Great Day in Harlem shot, where, it's like 70 plus jazz musicians all, assembled on the stoop in Harlem, um, which was recreated by Netflix recently. But like shots like that to me, are the same as just seeing like huge family photos in like the yard around the one car. So just like documenting history, I guess. If I got that from seeing those images, that's what made me want to do it. Of course, there's the Gordon Parks images that might ring bells, like whether it's like a boy with the June bug on like a string, he's like laying in a field of grass, and then like this like emerging man. But all of these ones kind of triggered, you know. Um, but it comes to like my early shots were just like flowers. It's funny that it's full circle now that I'm wearing a T-shirt with a plant on it, and surrounded by this.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Jeremy in the dojo over there, surrounded by the jungle. So it's a full circle thing right now. I think just shout out also to the National Arboretum. That's one of the first places I went on a field trip and just
Mm.
immersed, walking through like the azalea gardens, and again light coming in through the trees, the holes in the trees, and just basically shining. um, those scenes made me feel like I can probably capture this a lot faster than I can draw it.
Mm.
Into it as a reference first, but then it became just the main medium.
That's cool.
I think for me, from taking pictures, it was probably I grew up in the Adirondacks. I grew up like if you go to Canada and then you like cross the river and you're at the top of New York, like that's where I used to live. So I kind of grew up in the Adirondacks. So a lot of the stuff I used to take was landscape photography. So I remember getting a DSLR and I was learning how to use it. And I took a picture of like a sunset at the top of Whiteface in Lake Placid. And I remember getting home and editing it and getting through the whole process and then printing it out and just being like, this is something that I could do. I could do it again. And I was just really proud of what I created. So I think for me, that's probably where it started.
All right, so we have another question. And I know at least you, Brian, and Dio talked about your fathers also being photographers. And so you kind of got this generational thing going on. Uh, you all have children as well. Have any of them expressed an interest in photography?
Yeah.
Uh,
So I mean, my son's young. He'll be 4 in about a month. But like we'll go on photo walks. So I'll give him one of my old cameras. He'll put it around his neck, and we'll go out and he'll just take pictures. So if anybody wants to follow him, he's Zay the photographer or Zay the shooter
Oh, that's so
on
cute.
Instagram. But but no, like I think that I look at Dio and I look at Brian and I hear stories that they tell about their dads, and I just really hope that my son has those stories to tell when he's doing, cover shoots for whatever magazine is like leading the world at that point in time.
um, I have two sons. My oldest just has an interest in photography, but it's all subjective, right? It's like your dad is a photographer. He wants you to like
Yeah.
photography. I mean, he wants you to understand photography. So to say that we're gonna push our children in this direction, I think it's more so an option. I think one thing that's really cool about having generational achievements, property, whatever it is establishing something that your child now has to check out. So, if daddy has five studios around the country or around seven around the world, if you want to take over the studios, that's an opportunity. Maybe you want to do business. Maybe you want to get it in business and then just learn how to manage what the empire we built. Or maybe you do want to be a photographer. I think it's just having that option and the ability to appreciate photography. So I think my children appreciate photography. They understand that, oh snap, anytime they see an image, look, it's daddy, look, it's me, look, it's Lonnie, look, it's Soji. I love that. That's recognition of them in a moment at that time. And I wish I had video and images of me saying those same things, being proud and of seeing myself.
Yeah, yeah. My daughter's definitely interested. I mean, I think all kids is probably easy just to give them like a box of crayons and they'll just like go crazy. But
Right.
I know your kids are also like a sum of you and like and the surroundings. So my parents were creative. My dad might see me draw, and even though he wasn't a working artist, he might come home and see me drawing and be like, "Let me see if I still got it." And he still has it every time. He's just like an awesome draftsman. So again, growing up, I saw that, and whether I ran from it or to it, I ended up still like there, even with even with the plants. Like my mom has a house full of plants, so reluctantly I have them now, but now I like it. But my daughter, like Jeremy, she also has an Instagram page, Savvy Summers. Um, but we started a YouTube page for her because she's been like, she was taking my space, especially when like quarantine hit. It was normally she comes home, she draws a little bit, in my space when I'm done. But now she's here all the time, so it's like, all right, my space is now yours. There's like a drawer over here full of her art supplies. So, I think I told Jeremy and Dio, but she's 3. I wanted to have an art show by the time she's 5. So, so she can look back and be like, yeah, I did that. But as long as she loves it, if she's up 11:30 at nighttime and she be asleep, she asked me to draw. Okay, I'm up.
Yo, Brian, we have a whole studio gallery down here waiting for Savvy to have an art show.
It's about to happen.
Yes,
It's about to
I'll
happen.
curate it. I love that. All right, guys. Well, I mean, I think that those are all the questions we have, unless there are a few more. But thank you all for being with us this evening. Thank you to Eden's and Union Market for having this wonderful installation. And I hope everyone has an amazing evening.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, please go down to Union Market, check out the work. Let us know what you
Yes,
think.
please check out the work. You don't want to miss it. It's beautiful. It truly is. And socially distant.
Yeah.
Get a,
I mean,
and a smoothie bowl.
uh,
Get a smoothie bowl.
yeah,
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm signing off. Bye, everyone.
All right.
Oh my God, I need to give,
Oh, all right.
Oh,
I
wait,
need
is
to
that
give the
Jody?
4 of you a virtual hug.
Oh.
No, this is so awesome. Thank you all so much. I can't even tell you, there were moments when I started tearing up. When you guys were talking about being fathers, it was so beautiful. You have no perspective on the beauty of your words. It was, my phone was blowing up with people who were listening in, texting. I cannot thank you enough for being present tonight, for the work that you brought to Union Market, and the work you're doing in this world. And anything we can do to support you guys, let us know. We are desperate to figure out how to build the right community. So anything, Niall, anything we can do.
Jody, music to our ears.
Yeah, anything we can do, let us know, because really, I said this when I opened up, our work is much bigger than real estate. We are in the business of humanity, and this world has never needed humanity. It needs it now. I mean, this was really beautiful. This is our first time doing this. So thank you for helping us figure this out. And there's going to be a lot more to come. We have lots and lots of, we were having 5 million visitors come to Union Market. It's a little quieter during COVID, but we're going to be right back there. And we have lots of followers, and we're going to build this community the right way. So I hope that you guys will be a huge part of doing that. And I so appreciate all the leadership that you guys are showing.
Thanks a lot, Jody.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Brian, I'm going to be in touch. You've taken a lot of risk on us, so thank you. And thank you for introducing us to everybody else.
No problem at all.
And Claudia, you're sort of stuck with us now too. Sorry.
On behalf of